What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan Thomas. We are pushing this to overtime. This is the longest show in the history of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I'm pushing through, and the reason why, this is the 300th episode of the Thomas Take, and not only that, it is the debut of the Thomas Take on Grandstand Sports Network. Boom! How about that? A debut on a new network, and it's the 300th episode. I'm very excited. This is on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Spreaker.com, obviously, and Grandstand Sports Network. Pretty awesome stuff. Just wrapped up part 3 of the show, wrapped up part 2, wrapped up part 1. We are on part 4 of tonight's show. Ricky Sirianni, good buddy of mine, that has obviously been a big listener for the Thomas Take Sports Podcast for the last couple years. Big UFC fan, big Patriots fan. I always back him when we talk about the Patriots, and I see him post about the Patriots. People say the Patriots are cheaters. Whatever. I'm not a Patriots fan. Obviously, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, but eventually people got to look back, and when they do, they'll look back, and not all of it can be cheating if it's done time and time again. I mean, there's been some moments here and there, Spygate, things like that, Deflategate, which I thought was really stupid, but I hold the opinion that Tom Brady is the best quarterback I've ever seen, and accomplishments-wise, talent-wise, I think he's the best. I really do. You might not be able to say talent-wise, but you can definitely say that it doesn't. I don't view all-time great discussions as talent. I mean, if you can win with less talent around you, that makes you pretty damn talented, and Tom Brady has done that. I mean, look what he did on Sunday. No Gronkowski, no Edelman, no Mike Mitchell. Really making the most out of what he had around him. James White, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan stepping up. They're just a good team, people, and we need to really stop finding excuses as to why they continue to win and blame it on reffing. I know that the reffing has been shoddy and things like that, but come on. So Ricky said, Ryan, who is the most talented player of all time in NFL history? It's a very tough question, and I can answer that question in a wide variety of ways. But the way I'm going to do it for Ricky, I'm going to give him an answer to his question in a different spin. I said moments ago that Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time. I really believe that. I truly believe that. But one of the reasons why I can say that is because I've actually had the privilege of watching Tom Brady play since day one, and realize that this guy is the best that these four eyes, because I wear glasses, that these best four eyes have ever seen. So, I don't wear glasses all the time. Most of the time I do, but 2 eyes, 4 eyes, whatever. Tom Brady's the best I've ever seen. So, when I think of who's the most talented player of all time, it's obviously got to be somebody that I've watched, because I feel that way for Tom Brady in terms of ranking him as the best of all time. He's somebody that I've watched. So what I am going to do for Ricky, I am going to lay out my all-Thomas Take team, obviously on offense and a little bit defense. The way I look at it, I'm putting this lineup out there as if it is a fantasy team, because it is. At quarterback, I would have TB12. There's nobody better, nobody more clutch, nobody that reignites the fire like Tom Brady each and every week. Running back, I'd have Adrian Peterson and LaShawn McCoy. Wide receiver, I'd have Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, and Marvin Harrison. Tight end, I'd have obviously Rob Gronkowski. Honorable mention, Tony G. Offense, I would have the Ravens 2000 offense or the Bucks 02 offense. And my kicker would be none other than Adam Vinatieri. But if you were to ask me who the most talented player is that I've seen based on talent, it would have to be Adrian Peterson, due to the fact that AP has done things that not many running backs have ever been able to do, and that is make that comeback time and time and time again. Right now his career might not be in a great state, but it's not supposed to be in a great state. He's in the later half of his career. But a guy that can tear his knee and continue to show that he is superhuman, come back, run for the 2,000 yards, Unbelievable. Come within 8 or 9 yards of breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. And Eric Dickerson is a guy that, if you were to ask my dad, if you were to talk to Senior Thomas Take, he would say that Eric Dickerson's probably one of the best running backs he's ever seen. And I've always known that Eric Dickerson was one of my dad's favorite players. Probably is my dad's favorite player from his era. So from his era, Eric Dickerson. From mine, Adrian Peterson. It's got to be. And I can go through the numbers all day, and part of the numbers are kind of tainted because of the fact that he got suspended for that entire season due to the issues that he had, in terms of using a switch on his child and things like that. That obviously wasn't a great story, but my all-Thomas Take team, TB12, AP, LaShawn McCoy. And people can say, oh, there's some bias in that. No. Check the numbers. LaShawn McCoy, I've said this a bunch of times, LaShawn McCoy is a Hall of Famer. He is on pace to do something that only 3 or 4, maybe even 5 running backs have ever done. That's have over 12,000 rushing yards and over 500 receptions as a running back. He's on pace to do that. Ever since he came to Buffalo, he's led the league in yards. When he was in Philly, he was a terror. He was insane. And he still is. He's still playing at a high level. He is literally, I would say, 70% of the reason on the field why the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs. And the other 30% would be their defense. Wouldn't be because of their quarterback. That's for damn sure. Randy Moss, greatest deep threat wide receiver of all time. No doubt about it. T.O., he revolutionized the game. He changed the way that wide receivers play the game. He was such a physical specimen that wide receivers now are modeled, in my opinion, after him. Guys like A.J. Green, guys like Odell Beckham making plays similar to what T.O. made in his career. Marvin Harrison was, I had his poster on my wall. Marvin Harrison was one of my favorite players back in the day, and you can say, well, these guys had Peyton Manning, these guys had Tom Brady, these guys had so-and-so, T.O. had McNabb, whatever. I don't care about that. I look at the player and how they contributed to their team. That's what puts them on my all-Thomas Take team. Rob Gronkowski has put up numbers unlike any tight end ever. And I really think that down the field, he can burn you in so many different ways, whether it's as a deep threat, whether it's over the middle, whether it's underneath. He's a complete player and a true freak. The best defense that I've ever seen was definitely the Seattle Seahawks of a few years back. Baltimore Ravens, though, is a defense that I think ages like a fine wine, and I had to put that defense on the list. And Adam Vinatieri, obviously. Mr. Clutch. So hopefully I answered Ricky's question and then some. To come up with one guy, I need to talk about the past players as well. Barry Sanders would probably be the most talented guy I've ever not that I've ever seen, but most talented player. If you really look at the situation he was in, wasn't on a good Detroit Lions team, made the most of it, and was on the precipice of breaking a record, and said, no, I'm good. I care more about my health, proving my point. I'll dip out and keep my brain. So, very exciting stuff, to say the least. I'm very excited. Excuse me there. I'm very excited to have this idea of an all-Thomas Take team. It's basically an all-fantasy team. All-Thomas Take fantasy team. That's the way I look at it. TB12, AP, Shady, Randy Moss, T.O., Marvin Harrison, Gronk, Ravens D, special teams, kicker, Vinatieri. Who would I put in my flex slot? I just realized that. I don't have a flex slot guy. Let's go 2 tight end. As if it's a wide receiver, running back, tight end slot, I would go Tony G, my man, straight out of KC in his prime. That's what I would do. So that is my answer to your question, Ricky. Thank you so much for submitting another question. And as always, I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the All Thomas Take team. We're moving on to part 5. Kirk Cousins to Buffalo. Should the Bills make it happen? And why? And should they go a different route? And why? Should they or shouldn't they go after Kirk Cousins? I'm going to give you my take on that. Be right back. Thank you for tuning in. You are listening to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Grandstand Sports Network.